Welcome back to Movies Recap. Please like the video and interact with it to support the channel to continue to provide this content. Thank you so much. A group of Canadian soldiers under the command of Ryan are patrolling a route in Kandahar province, Afghanistan. The first group must determine whether the road is safe before informing the other group to avoid it if it is not. Ryan notices some black patches on the road. Suspicious about the patches, Ryan requests for the convoy to stop at their tracks. He also requests the sniper to fire at each of the black spots. The first two patches are just patches, but when the sniper hits the third one, it explodes. As the patch is revealed to be a landmine, enemies start to appear seemingly out of nowhere. Because of this, the soldiers have to escape the place by other means. While escaping, the soldiers notice a small village in the desert. As they go inside and carefully inspect the whole village for enemies, they encounter an elder who just nonchalantly throws a grenade away. Ryan communicates this back to the base, telling them that they are looking at an elder with crazy eyes. The elder is inviting them inside a house. The Canadians seek refuge in a compound where an elderly man manages to reassure them that everything will be fine despite not speaking English. Ryan invites his other soldiers to enter because he has trust in the soldier. The soldiers reload their weapons and check their equipment inside. However, the troops are surprised when kids enter the room suddenly with plates of food. While they are there, the soldiers and the elder wait for something to happen. Sure enough, there is an explosion next to the elder, giving the enemy a way through. The soldiers are saying their goodbyes to one another as the elder leaves, believing that this is their final stand. The enemy, miraculously, has gone when the elder enters the building. The soldiers are still confused of what happened to them as they left the area. Pete goes outside to smoke in the break. Canadian soldiers head back to their base. In order to express his appreciation to the elder, Captain Mitchell wants more details about him. He makes some effort to determine that this must be the Ghost, who served in the Soviet Union's battle and was given this name since he will never die. The Ghost's former employee Bashir Daud Khan, sometimes known as BDK, is currently hurting people. The general is talking about building Hyena Road in front of Bashir Daud Khan, also known as BDK, and his son in the following scene. BDK is a strong person with his own militia. The general is hoping that BDK will help the construction of Hyena Road because it is essential for opening a way to the Taliban forces. BDK initially declines, but he later agrees to help them, along with his son. They shake hands to conclude the meeting. Pete and a female soldier are talking about BDK's dubious appearance after the meeting. Pete then lets her know that he is departing for Spur. Pete tells a story about how Alexander the Great once tried to conquer Afghanistan as they travel there. A story of Alexander the Great's mother writing to her son about how he cannot conquer Afghanistan is then related to the audience, and Alexander gives her a bag of dirt from the country. After some time, the mother discovers that even the dirt is hostile, and she now knows why her son is struggling. Pete arrives at Spur after the story. Ryan approaches Jen as she is eating by herself in Spur. Secretly, they are in love. Pete walks up to Ryan from a different table and introduces himself. Then, Ryan agrees when he asks if he may speak with him outside for a short time. Pete informs Ryan that he was seeing their earlier fight with the Taliban from outside the tent. He then admits to Ryan that he is aware of something between Ryan and Jen. But instead of criticizing Ryan, he offers him his congratulations. Pete then explains to Ryan that what the elder did for his tribe back then was a long-standing tribal custom. Ryan and Jen are speaking to one another that evening. While Jen and Ryan are perfect for one another, she suddenly tells Ryan that they need to stop what they are doing for the time being because it may hurt their military careers. Ryan accepts this totally. The next day, a soldier is giving a journalist advice on what to do and what not to do when accompanying the soldiers, including not to look closely at the local women. The following scene finds Pete and Ryan speaking with a senior citizen from the same village with a translator. When they ask for the other elder, he replies that he is the only one there. The elder then informs them that the individual they are looking for is a ghost who may live in Kandahar city. Pete walks straight to his informant, Haji, also known as the cleaner, after his meeting with the elder. Pete hears from Haji, who confirms that the ghost has really returned and that his uncle has made arrangements for them to meet tomorrow. Ryan then lets his group know that he is leaving for somewhere tomorrow. He does provide some bad news, however. The Taliban have taken 2 anonymous soldiers. One of his fellow soldiers loses it in fits of wrath because nothing is worse than being held hostage by the Taliban while still alive. The next day, Pete and Ryan wait in the middle of the desert with other soldiers before leaving. Pete asks the translator to turn up the music while they are there. They all dance as if there is no problem at all because of the music. The convoy starts to drive in the direction of Kandahar after that happy occasion. Before they get there, Pete discreetly drops off the cleaner. Pete explains to Ryan that Haji is one of the bravest and trustworthy men he knows. They finally reach their destination wherein Pete, Ryan, and the translator enter a house. There, they finally meet with the elder that they are looking for. After the formal introduction, Pete hands the elder a few sums of money as a reward. for helping Ryan back in the village, but the elder does not take it because he thinks it is foolish to receive money without knowing what it is really for. Pete then tells him about the supposed Lion of the Desert, a legendary warrior who has now come back. Afterwards, Pete gives the elder a calling card so that the elder can contact him if he has news about the legendary warrior. After the elder leaves, Pete then tells Ryan that the elder is, in fact, the Lion of the Desert. Pete explains to Ryan why this fighter is also known as Ghost as they make their way to their vehicles. He claims that despite suffering many wounds and injuries during the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan, the Soviets were unable to put this warrior to death. Pete informs Ryan is that the elder might be a valuable ally for them because the Taliban seem to respect him. The vehicle, however, detonates. Luckily, everyone inside is secure, but Pete needs to destroy the radio to prevent it from getting into enemy hands. While enemies swarm the rooftops of houses, the three navigate together in the streets. The three come face to face with the cleaner again after successfully fending some enemies while on the road. The cleaner is now driving a truck. They immediately hop right on the back of the truck, with Haji saying that as soon as he has heard gunfire sounds, he immediately looks for them. The two discuss their strange, scary moment when they are back at the base. Then Pete gives Ryan his pessimistic view of what will soon happen to Afghanistan. Ryan, however, is hopeful and thinks that even one shot can change everything. They end their conversation at that point. Pete continues to speak with Haji in the following scenario. Pete asks why Ghost agreed to meet with them but said nothing during the meeting. He then gives Haji the assignment to research the importance of that village and its population. The cleaner accepts the job right away. Pete then asks questions of his fellow soldier about certain events in the village. After managing to know the information, Haji calls Pete to tell him that BDK owns the land where the village is located. Pete then instructs Haji to come to Spur. Jen visits a doctor in the next scenario because she hasn't had her period in 6 months. The doctor then tells to her that she is pregnant because she already has a living life inside of her. The cleaner gets to Spur immediately. There, Pete, Ryan, and Haji mention that BDK actually owns the village land. Then, Pete informs Ryan that BDK leases out his land to farmers who are late in their payments. One of these farmers, who is also Ghost's son, isn't able to pay. Therefore, Ghost came back to protect the reputation of his family. Ryan then informs Pete that he has snipers positioned nearby who can keep an eye on area movement. Just like that, we now see Ryan's men preparing their equipment and weapons. We also see their deployment in the early hours of the following morning. The soldiers take their position in the mountains near the village where they can get a clear view of what is happening through their scope. At first, nothing of importance is happening. Suddenly, BDK's convoy arrives at the gate of the village. There, they immediately kidnap the Ghost's granddaughters. The sniper requests for swift retaliation against the kidnappers, but Pete tells them to not shoot if there are no guns present. The sniper is having a hard time fighting his conscience, but in the end, he does not pull the trigger, much to his disappointment. Ryan storms out of the communication room as a consequence of what has happened. Jen follows him and explains that they are only following to the rules of engagement and the line of command. Jen tries to continue the conversation, but Ryan breaks her off to dispute with Pete, who has just left the facility. Pete tells him that the children might be sold in order to get the cash that BDK desires. Also, he explains to Ryan that BDK is actually a valuable asset for them, thus they decided not to assist. When they encounter the cleaner, he informs them that Ghost will exact his vengeance in accordance with an ancient tribal custom. Then Pete tells Ryan about the history of animosity between Ghost and BDK, which began when they were part of the army against the Soviets. Pete believes that BDK needs to be killed because he is evil, but only Ghost is capable of handling out such a job, making it look to be a personal goal rather than a political one. Ryan is also told that they would meet Ghost in a safe house by him. In the following scene, Ghost gets a call that both enrages and saddens him. The action then switches to BDK's son, who is suddenly taken by unknown men as he exits a barbershop. They then present Ghost with the birth of BDK's son. Then, BDK gets a similar sad call. Back in the present, Ryan is having a meeting with Jen in her room. Jen shows Ryan the ultrasound of their unborn baby inside the room, thing he has ever seen. Jen then asks Ryan if he wants it, and Ryan answers that he does. Jen cries because she thought Ryan will not take responsibility. Meanwhile, Pete meets up with the general to discuss BDK's involvement with the Taliban, telling him that the reason why Hyena Road is taking a long time to construct is that BDK profits from the constant disruption that happens in the region. Furthermore, Pete tells him that he intends to make Ghost their ally, and the general accepts because he hates BDK. Soon after, Pete and the cleaner meet up with Ghost in the safe house. Meanwhile, Ryan briefs his men about the safe house and the measures they will take in the likely event of Ghost and BDK meeting up. Pete speaks about the recent incident of a kidnapping inside the safe home. Additionally, he informs Ghost that he will be giving him money as a gift and that he wants him to attend the Hyena Road opening ceremony. Pete insisted that Ghost come even though he is still convinced that he is not special and that he is just a normal grape farmer. In response to Ghost's question, Pete says that BDK will also be present. Ghost's eyes widen in reaction to what he just heard. Ghost tells them it will be an honor to attend the opening, after adding that he has known BDK since he was a little child. Instantly, their meeting comes to an end. Ryan and Jen meet up that evening in a distant area. As soon as they leave, Ryan informs Jen that he wants to marry her, and Jen accepts the proposal with happiness. They exchange a deep, longing kiss. Ryan makes a promise to be careful when Jen warns him to be careful with the upcoming mission. The general travels to the opening ceremony the following day with his convoy. Ryan and his men, on the other hand, take up position atop a mountain so that they can observe both the safe house and the ceremony. They do this so that they can still watch BDK's movements if he ever visits the safe house or the ceremony. After waiting a short while, they finally see BDK's convoy on the road. The convoy, instead of going to the ceremony, heads toward the safe house. Because of this, Pete calls a department and requests to hack the calls in the region so that they can listen to their conversation. After failing the first time, the department manages to hack BDK's phone. When BDK comes at the scene, Ghost steps outside to meet him. Pete and the others pay close attention to their conversation while a translator is present at their location. When Ghost first accuses BDK, a former student of his, of disrespecting him, BDK responds that Ghost's son doesn't pay the land's rent. After Ghost hands over the cash to BDK, Ghost demands his granddaughters back, and BDK follows suit by asking for his son back. BDK's son gets returned by Ghost, but only his head. Ryan wants to shoot at BDK, who is going to shoot Ghost as he weeps. Pete begs Ryan not to shoot, but Ryan still opens fire, instantly killing BDK. The group moves out of place. Pete reprimands Ryan for shooting despite his order, saying that Ryan intervened with Ghost's honorable death. The group travels to the village and meets Ghost there. There, the squad runs into a number of enemies. The team, along with Ghost, they struggle to break away from the enemies and end themselves stuck in a house. Ryan orders an artillery attack on their positions after realizing that this is their final fight. When Ryan hears this, Jen begs him to decline the request, but Ryan insists. Ryan informs Ghost that he will soon become a father as they prepare to die. Later, Ryan expresses regret to Jen. Soon after, an artillery strike decimates the neighborhood and kills everyone. The movie then cuts to soldiers raiding a home filled with kids. They save the granddaughters of Ghost there. Pete, Jen, and the general attend the funeral service for the recently dead soldiers as the movie comes to a close. On the other hand, Ghost's son also takes his daughters to a grave.